You are standing in the exact same spot people stood in 1993, in 2004, and again in 2010, right before a shift. Most of them didn't notice it happening. Some noticed and still did nothing. In 10 years, one of those two groups is going to be you. There is a pattern underneath all of this, and I call it the noticing trap. It catches almost every generation the same way, and almost nobody sees it until it already happened to them. Today I am going to show you how it works, who it already caught, and the narrow window still sitting open right now. Stay with me until the end, because by the time this is over, you will know exactly which side of that gap you are standing on today, while there is still time to move, and most people watching this are going to close it and do nothing anyway. Here is the trap in one sentence. Every major economic shift looks small and slightly ridiculous while it is still affordable to get into, and it looks obvious and safe only after it is already expensive. By the time something feels safe enough for most people to act on it, the people who noticed early are not competing with you anymore. They already won that round. You are not late because you are unlucky. You are late because you are waiting to feel safe, and safe is the last feeling that ever shows up. Look at what history actually did, not what people remember it doing. Steam and rail changed who could move goods and who got rich moving them, and most people alive at the time thought it was a fad for a handful of investors. Electricity turned into factories and household appliances, and for years it was treated as a novelty for people with more money than sense. Personal computers sat in hobbyist garages for the better part of a decade before anyone with a normal job took them seriously. The internet spent years being called a toy for college students and IT departments before it quietly became the floor that every business in the country now stands on. Each one of those shifts minted an ordinary group of people who got in early, not because they were smarter, but because they were paying attention while everyone else was waiting to be convinced. Let me tell you about two men who were exactly the same age, worked jobs that paid almost identically, and stood at one of those exact moments about 12 years ago. I will call them Tyler and Derek because those are not their real names, but the decision they each made is real enough that you probably know both of them personally. Tyler heard about it first, actually. He was the one who brought it up at a cookout, half joking, the way you talk about something you don't quite believe in yet. Everyone laughed a little. Somebody's cousin had supposedly made real money off something similar a few years earlier, and it sounded like exactly the kind of story that turns out to be exaggerated. Tyler decided the smart move was to wait and see what happened. Nobody around him was doing it yet, and doing something nobody around you is doing feels a lot like doing something wrong, even when it isn't. So he waited for it to feel normal. Derek didn't say anything about it at the cookout. He went home, put in an amount of money he would not have missed if it disappeared completely, and didn't mention it again for almost 2 years. Not because he was smarter than Tyler, not because he had some inside information Tyler didn't have access to. He just decided that a small, boring, quiet position was worth more to him than being right in front of an audience. He wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone at that cookout. He was trying to be somewhere useful 10 years later. 10 years later, Tyler still talks about that cookout sometimes, usually as a joke about the one that got away. He eventually did get in, 3 years after Derek, once it had already been written up, talked about on the news, and validated by exactly the kind of consensus that told him it was finally acceptable to move. By then, the version of it he could still get into was a different animal entirely. More expensive, more crowded, less room to grow. He didn't lose money. He just didn't make the kind of money that changes a decade. Derek doesn't bring it up at cookouts. He doesn't need to. The quiet position he opened and forgot about is now large enough to have quietly changed what his next 20 years look like, and almost nobody around him knows it. There is one more detail about that year that matters more than people remember. Derek didn't tell anyone what he'd done. Not because he was hiding something shameful, but because there was nothing yet worth announcing. A small, boring position doesn't make an interesting story at a cookout. It just sits there, unglamorous, doing nothing anyone would notice for a long time. That's exactly why almost nobody does it. It offers no social payoff in the moment it actually matters. All the payoff comes later, alone, on a random afternoon when you check a number you'd have forgotten about. That gap between Tyler and Derek is not a story about luck. It is the noticing trap doing exactly what it always does. Tyler didn't fail because he made a bad decision. He failed because he waited for permission that was never going to arrive in time to matter. The permission only shows up after the opportunity that made it worth having is already gone. If you have ever caught yourself waiting to see what everyone else does first before you're willing to try something new with your money, I want you to actually sit with that feeling for a second, because that feeling is the entire trap. It doesn't feel like fear. It feels like patience. It feels responsible. It feels like the mature, careful thing to do, and that is exactly why it works on intelligent, careful people instead of reckless ones. Nobody falls into the noticing trap by being foolish. People fall into it by being exactly cautious enough to wait for the crowd to go first, and the crowd, by definition, always arrives after the best part is already over. If this is landing for you so far, a like actually helps more than you'd think. It's the only way a video like this finds the people who are standing at one of these moments right now without realizing it. Here is where we are right now, in this exact year. There is a shift happening in how work gets done, how businesses operate, and how ordinary people compete for opportunity, built around tools that understand language, generate content, and automate work that used to require a full-time employee to do it. You have probably already noticed it. Most people have. But noticing something and positioning yourself around it are two completely different things, and right now, this shift still looks the way every previous one looked at this exact stage. A little clunky, a little overhyped. Easy to dismiss as a toy or a fad if you only look at the surface of it. Underneath that surface, something more durable is being built. Not just the tools themselves, but everything underneath them. The infrastructure, the systems, the businesses that quietly service every company that adopts this. The way plumbing services, every house, whether or not anyone thinks about the pipes. A meaningful share of businesses out there still have not touched any of this yet. That gap, the businesses that haven't moved and the workers who haven't adjusted, is not a footnote. It is exactly where the opportunity currently lives. The same way it lived in the businesses that hadn't built a website yet in the late 90s, and the businesses that hadn't figured out social media yet in the mid-2000s. Here's what actually separates this moment from the ones that came before it, and it's not the technology itself, it's the speed. Every one of those earlier shifts gave ordinary people years, sometimes the better part of a decade, to quietly get in before the crowd arrived and the price of admission changed. This one is compressing that window down to something closer to a couple of years than a couple of decades. That's not a reason to panic and rush into anything. It's a reason to stop treating "I'll think about it eventually" as a safe, neutral choice. Eventually might already be too late in a window this short. In a way, it never used to be. I want to be straight with you before I go any further, because I am not interested in selling you a fantasy. There is no guaranteed outcome here. Nobody can promise you a return, and anyone who tells you they can is lying to you, full stop. There is real risk in every single thing I am about to describe. What there is, and what I can actually point to, is a pattern that has repeated with almost boring consistency for over a century, and a window that history says does not stay open forever. If you are the kind of person who already has money working somewhere and you're looking at where to put more of it, resist the urge to chase the loudest, most talked about names. By the time something is loud enough for everyone to be talking about it, the early part of the move is usually already priced in. The quieter, more boring position is almost always the infrastructure underneath the shift, not the flashiest company riding on top of it. Historically, the people who did well during periods like this were rarely the ones betting on a single winner. They were the ones who owned a small piece of the plumbing that every eventual winner was going to need regardless of who came out on top. If you're not someone with a lot of extra capital right now, that doesn't leave you out of this, and that's actually the part most people miss completely. If you have a skill you already use at your job, there is a large and growing number of small businesses that have no idea how to use any of these new tools and desperately need someone who does. You don't need a technical degree. You don't need to write a single line of code. You need to know slightly more than the average business owner, which, right now, is a remarkably low bar to clear. That gap between what most business owners understand and what is actually available to them is a real, addressable opportunity, and it doesn't require you to quit your job or bet your savings on anything. I know exactly who is actually watching this all the way to this point. It's not someone with nothing to lose and free time to gamble with. It's more likely someone in their 30s or 40s, a mortgage or rent that doesn't move, maybe kids asleep down the hall watching this instead of scrolling for 10 more minutes before bed, with a job that's fine and a bank account that's fine and a quiet feeling that fine isn't actually the plan. None of what I'm about to say requires you to blow up that stability. The noticing trap doesn't ask you to gamble. It asks you to stop confusing caution with doing absolutely nothing at all. And if none of that applies to you right now, if you're just someone with a steady paycheck trying to protect it, the least risky move available to you is also the simplest one. Learn the tools that are reshaping your industry before your employer makes you learn them under pressure. Not because someone told you to, because the person in your workplace who understands this first is going to become the most valuable person in that room, and there is no reason that person can't be you. If you're not subscribed yet, now is a good time. This channel exists specifically to walk through moments exactly like this one, the ones that are easy to miss while they're actually happening. I want to be honest about something else, because it matters more than the mechanics we just walked through. The reason most people end up on Tyler's side of this instead of Derek's has almost nothing to do with intelligence or access to information. It has to do with a pressure that has nothing to do with money at all. The pressure to only do the things everyone around you has already agreed are acceptable to do. Moving early, quietly, without asking anyone's permission first, feels uncomfortable precisely because nobody is doing it with you yet. That discomfort is not a warning sign. It is usually the exact signal that you are early enough for it to still matter. If you want us to walk through a specific situation that looks more like your own life in a future video, whether that's a career decision, a business idea, or where to put money you already have, drop it in the comments. Some of the sharpest ideas for this channel have come directly from people watching it. Here's the part I actually want you to leave with, more than any of the specifics. Every single one of these windows in history has looked identical at this exact stage. Underwhelming. A little embarrassing to take seriously in public. Easy to laugh off at a cookout. And every single time, the people who quietly moved anyway, without an audience, without permission, without waiting for it to feel safe, ended up on a different financial trajectory than the people standing right next to them who waited. Not because they were smarter, because they understood that the trap isn't laziness. The trap is patience pointed in the wrong direction. If any of this helped you see something you've been putting off, share it with someone who's exactly where Tyler was at that cookout, still waiting for it to feel normal enough to move. 10 years from now, somebody is going to be telling this exact story again, about this exact year, the same way I just told you about a cookout 12 years ago. Two people, same age, same paycheck, same window sitting open in front of both of them at the exact same time. One of them is going to move quietly and never bring it up again. The other is going to wait for permission that arrives 3 years too late and call it bad luck instead of what it actually was. The window doesn't care which one of those people you decide to be. It's open right now, the same way it was open in 1993 and in 2004, and it will close the exact same way it always has, quietly and slightly before anyone was ready for it to.